So I'm profoundly honored to have this award named after him and to have it from this magnificent organization. I thank you for all the remarkable work that you do. So I say to you, this is a great enterprise. On balance, I'm hopeful about where we're going in AIDS. On balance, I'm hopeful about where we're going with freedom. But I don't think there should be much self-congratulations going around here, because when you look at the cost of what it takes to completely solve some of these problems and our capacity to do it, it's unconscionable that we haven't done it already. So I thank you for the award, but when I look at it every day, it will remind me of how much more I should be doing. Thank you, and God bless you.
Before us, we have many, many challenges. You look at just the numbers of maybe 3 diseases, AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, 6 million deaths in a single year, and that's without talking about the other dozen or so neglected diseases that for which there is already an effective vaccine or treatment or both. To develop an equity plan that will permit us to address this burden of disease effectively will require the engagement of groups like NFID and also all of the other partners mentioned a minute ago. And for our own group, Partners in Health, and the group with which I have the privilege of working at Harvard, we promise to be fully engaged in that struggle, because it is a struggle, and we promise to work even harder in Africa, which, as I mentioned, is the continent with the greatest burden of disease. And this honor, bearing the name of Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, will help us, I think, and perhaps help us immeasurably as we move forward this agenda. Thank you very much for honoring me. I'm very grateful.
It's especially pleasing to be associated with something that has the Carter's name and imprint on it. I've had the opportunity to see what their unique blend of rural upbringing, good education, exposure to the needs of the world, exposure to power without being corrupted, a clear sense of purpose, incredible stewardship of time and selfless service, what this can mean for the world's forgotten people. And that humbles me. And that's why this award is so important. I don't even have to be up to the standard to thank you for recognizing the need for thinking about science application, science in the service of humanity, and awareness of the destiny we are preparing for others. William Wilberforce, in his drive to abolish slavery in England 2 centuries ago, used a phrase that he wanted to, quotes, make goodness fashionable, end quotes. The National Foundation for Infectious Diseases is not only trying to advance the science needed to reduce the toll of infectious diseases, but it's also trying to make goodness fashionable. And for that, I thank you.
There's simply no substitute for well-informed, empowered health consumers who know what they need to do to protect their health and the health of their families. Indeed, there's a role for all of us to play in fostering such an informed and engaged citizenry. Again, I'm greatly honored to receive this distinguished award, and I look forward to continuing to do everything I can to advance the vision that all of us share for a healthier, safer society. Thank you.
My interest in healthcare in Kenya was something of an accident. I found myself in rural Kenya as a safari client and learned that the residents, many of whom appeared obviously ill, had no option for health care. It was impossible for me to walk away. I said, if not me, then who? And a project was born. I have learned that if you are sick, or as my daughter reminded me, hungry, you can't work. you can't participate in a well-intentioned microfinance project. You can't take care of your family. You can't be successful in school. I have learned that in order to move a community from poverty, you must first assist them toward wellness. And I have learned that in an area bereft of medical care, the intervention cannot focus on a single disease, but must comprehensively address individual health care needs.
I would like to recognize that while we have been very successful as a community in eradicating and controlling infectious disease, there is much more work to be done to prevent bacterial and viral diseases that are currently known. There still are reported cases of pertussis in the United States. Only 76% of our children in America get all of their recommended series of vaccines. That needs to be 100%. We must continue to educate and form partnerships and not rest until 100% of our children are vaccinated.
It's tremendous honor to receive this special award named after two of the world's greatest humanitarian and long-standing friends of my country, Ethiopia. President Carter and Miss Carter and all that the Carter Center are champions of country ownership. And so I see this award as a special recognition of all that you have done to support our efforts in realizing true ownership of our country's development. I stand before you, a humble public servant who has simply been lucky enough to be given a special opportunity to serve the Ethiopian people. I think it's quite natural to feel compassion for one's own people, but I believe that true humanitarianism is best seen in those exceptional human beings who go far beyond their own homes and native communities, and their self-sacrifice, those who so naturally treat like their own family, even strangers with whom they have no real kinship other than simply being human. Every time I meet such extraordinary individuals, I have been left with a deep motivation to do much, much more.
For me, it's an understatement to say that I am humbled and honored to be accepting this award, named for two of my personal heroes, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter. I've been fortunate to have worked throughout my career with organizations like the CDC, the Gates Foundation, and Now Care that believes that all life does have equal value and that the random accident of birth should not forever limit a person's potential. That's why, as a citizen of what is still the wealthiest and most powerful nation in the world, surrounded by all the many blessings that we take for granted, I believe that we have a responsibility to make life more fair, more peaceful, more healthy, and more rewarding for all people in this country, but also for the most poor and vulnerable around the world. It's the right thing to do. It is in our best collective interest, and we have the ability to do it. Which leads me to my final words by two people that I also draw inspiration from and that keep me believing that it is possible to achieve big goals and create a more equal and a more just world. Gandhi said, "A small body of determined spirits fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission can alter the course of history." And perhaps my favorite quote by Margaret Mead, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you.
Vision, knowledge, skill, caring, and commitment. Qualities reflected in the Award for Humanitarian Contributions to the Health of Humankind. Qualities personified by the work of President and Mrs. Carter. The award and the Carter's work are a lasting reminder that at its essence, life has no meaning except in terms of responsibility. That is why the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases chose President and Mrs. Carter to be the award's first recipients, and why the award has come to be known as the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter Award for Humanitarian Contributions to the Health of Humankind.